There are some moments in life that just shatter you. Moments that redefine your understanding of people you thought you knew, people you loved. For me, that moment arrived not with a bang, but with the clinking of champagne glasses and the sight of my own credit card held aloft in a toast by my daughter-in-law. It was a betrayal so profound, so utterly audacious, that even now, years later, the memory can still curdle my blood. If you've ever felt the sting of injustice, if you've ever had your trust trampled, then you'll understand the fire that ignited within me that night. Stick around, because this isn't just a story about a stolen credit card. It's a story about a mother's love, a son's blindness, and the cold, hard justice that eventually finds its way. Before we dive into the heart of this tale, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments if you've ever had to deal with a truly toxic family member. Your stories help us all feel a little less alone. Now, let's get into it. My son Mark was my world. From the moment he was born, a tiny bundle of joy, my greatest ambition was to see him happy, successful, and surrounded by love. I worked tirelessly, often juggling 2 jobs after his father passed away, just to ensure he had opportunities I never did. He grew into a good man, kind-hearted, if a little easily swayed. That last part, I would come to learn, was his fatal flaw. When he met Sarah, my heart swelled with hope. She was beautiful, vivacious, with a laugh that could fill a room. Or so it seemed. I welcomed her into our family with open arms, eager for the daughter I never had. I bought her gifts, offered advice, and made sure she felt cherished. I truly believed she was a wonderful addition, the perfect match for my gentle son. Sarah, however, had an expensive taste and a remarkable talent for spending. Mark, bless his generous heart, always tried to provide, but I could see the strain. More than once, I'd discreetly slip him some money or offer to pay for things, just to ease their burden. I saw it as helping my children, a natural act of a loving mother. They were saving for a down payment on a house, they said, and every little bit helped. I wanted to believe it. Sundays were our sacred family dinner nights. Every week, without fail, Mark and Sarah would come over to my house. I'd spend hours preparing their favorite dishes. Mark loved my lasagna, and Sarah always raved about my roasted chicken. It was a ritual, a connection, a comfort. I cherished those evenings, the laughter, the stories, the simple joy of having my family together. This particular Sunday, I was especially excited. It was Mark's promotion celebration. He'd worked so hard, and I wanted to make it special. I'd planned a lavish meal, bought a special bottle of wine, and even baked his favorite chocolate cake from scratch. The house smelled of garlic, herbs, and simmering tomato sauce. I was humming as I set the table, picturing their smiling faces. Around 5 p.m., just an hour before they were due to arrive, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Her voice, usually so bright and bubbly, sounded subdued, almost strained. "Oh, Mom," she sighed, a little too dramatically. "I'm so sorry, but we have to cancel dinner tonight." My heart sank. "Oh? Is everything all right, dear?" I asked, immediately concerned. "No, not really," she said, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "Mark's come down with something awful, a terrible stomach bug. He's been, well, you don't want the details. He's just utterly miserable. We couldn't possibly make it." My mind raced. Mark? Sick? He rarely got sick. And a stomach bug? So suddenly? "Oh, my poor boy," I exclaimed, my maternal instincts kicking in. "Is there anything I can do? Should I bring over some soup, a ginger ale?" "No, no, Mom, really, it's fine," she insisted, a little too quickly. "He just needs rest, and, well, it might be contagious, you know. We wouldn't want you to catch it. It's best we just lay low." She sounded so convincing, so concerned for my well-being. I hesitated. It felt off. Mark would usually call me himself if he was sick, or at least text. And Sarah's sudden concern for my health, while appreciated, was a new development. But I pushed the unease down. My son was sick. That was the primary concern. "All right, dear," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "Just let me know if you need anything at all. And tell Mark I love him and hope he feels better soon." "I will, Mom. Thanks for understanding. We'll make it up to you, I promise. Love you." And with that, she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the aroma of a feast that wouldn't be eaten. The special wine, the chocolate cake, the perfectly roasted chicken, all for nothing. A wave of profound disappointment washed over me, followed by a quiet, nagging suspicion. Something just didn't sit right. Mark? Sick? Contagious? It was all a bit too convenient, especially on the night of his promotion celebration. I tidied up, putting away the food that could be saved, my mood deflated. My husband, Arthur, came into the kitchen, sensing my low spirits. "Everything all right, honey? Smells delicious in here." "Sarah just called," I explained, a sigh escaping my lips. "Mark's apparently come down with a terrible stomach bug. They had to cancel." Arthur, always the pragmatist, raised an eyebrow. "A stomach bug? On the night of his promotion dinner? That's convenient." "That's what I thought," I admitted, relief washing over me that he echoed my unspoken doubt. "But Sarah said it was contagious, and they didn't want me to catch it." Arthur just shrugged. "Well, what are we going to do with all this food? I was looking forward to that lasagna." "I suppose we'll have leftovers for a week," I said. "Unless, you know what? I don't feel like eating alone tonight. How about we go out, just us?" Arthur's face brightened. "Now that's an idea. Where do you fancy? That new Italian place, the Olive Branch, just opened up? I heard good things." The Olive Branch. It was a little upscale, a place Mark and Sarah had mentioned wanting to try. It was also just a few blocks from their apartment. A strange impulse, a flicker of that earlier suspicion, made me suggest it. "Perfect," I said, a mischievous glint in my eye. "Let's go there." We got dressed and headed out. The Olive Branch was bustling, filled with the cheerful hum of conversation and the clinking of cutlery. The hostess led us to a cozy booth near the back, overlooking the main dining area. I scanned the room, a habit I had, looking for familiar faces. And then I saw them. My breath hitched. Across the room, at a prime table near the window, sat Mark and Sarah. They weren't looking sick. Far from it. Sarah was radiant in a shimmering dress, Mark in a crisp new shirt, both laughing, clinking champagne flutes. They looked like they were celebrating. My heart began to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. My initial reaction was confusion, then a cold, creeping dread. Mark wasn't sick. Sarah had lied. But why? My eyes narrowed, focusing on their table. As I watched, Sarah reached into her small clutch purse, pulled something out, and handed it to Mark. He glanced at it, grinned, and then, with a flourish, she raised her glass. "To us, darling," she declared, her voice carrying slightly in the lull of conversation. "And to our future." Mark raised his glass in return, his eyes shining. "To us." And then the unmistakable glint of my credit card in Sarah's hand as she held it up, a triumphant little smirk playing on her lips before she tucked it back into her purse. My credit card. My platinum tier, unlimited spending credit card. The one I used for all my major purchases. The one I'd lent to Mark a few weeks ago for an emergency car repair, which he had promised to return. He hadn't. He said he'd forgotten it at their place. A cold wave washed over me, a sickening blend of betrayal. It wasn't just that they had lied about being sick. It was that they were celebrating with my money. My blood ran cold, then boiled. Arthur, who had been engrossed in the menu, looked up, sensing my sudden rigidity. "Honey, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer. I just pointed, a trembling finger towards Mark and Sarah. Arthur followed my gaze, and his usually placid face hardened. He didn't need an explanation. He saw it too. The lie, the celebration, the glint of the card. They're using your card, aren't they? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. I could only nod, tears pricking at my eyes, not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated rage. My son, my sweet, kind Mark, sitting there, complicit in this deception. My daughter-in-law, whom I had welcomed, cherished, and helped, was openly celebrating her deceit with my money. My blood ran cold, then boiled. Arthur, who had been engrossed in the menu, looked up, sensing my sudden rigidity. "Honey, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer. I just pointed, a trembling finger towards Mark and Sarah. Arthur followed my gaze, and his usually placid face hardened. He didn't need an explanation. He saw it too. The lie, the celebration, the glint of the card. "They're using your card, aren't they?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. I could only nod, tears pricking at my eyes, not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated rage. My son, my sweet, kind Mark, sitting there, complicit in this deception. My daughter-in-law, whom I had welcomed, cherished, and helped, was openly celebrating her deceit with my money. I wanted to storm over there, overturn their table, and scream. But a deeper, colder part of me took over. This wasn't just about a dinner or a credit card. This was about trust, respect, and a fundamental breach of family. This required more than just an outburst. This required strategy. "No," I whispered, pulling my hand back. "We're not making a scene. Not yet." I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking slightly, and subtly, carefully, I started taking pictures. Multiple angles, zooming in on Sarah's face, on Mark's oblivious grin, on the table laden with expensive dishes. I even managed a quick, blurry shot of the card itself, though I knew the previous photos would be enough. This wasn't just a moment of anger. This was the birth of a plan. We ordered our food, though I barely tasted mine. My mind was racing, cataloging every detail, every emotion. The brazenness of it all, the callous disregard for my feelings, for my generosity. They had canceled dinner with me under false pretenses, then gone to an expensive restaurant just blocks away to celebrate with my money. The audacity was breathtaking. As soon as we got home, I went straight to my computer. I logged into my bank account, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Sure enough, there it was, a recent charge from the Olive Branch for an exorbitant amount, processed just an hour ago. And not just that. As I scrolled through the recent transactions, I saw a pattern. Charges from high-end boutiques, luxury spas, expensive gadget stores, all in the past few weeks, all on the card I'd lent to Mark. Amounts that far exceeded any car repair. They hadn't forgotten to return it. They had been using it, repeatedly. My stomach churned. It wasn't just the money. It was the calculated deception, the way they had taken advantage of my trust, my love. I felt like a fool. But that feeling quickly morphed into a steely resolve. No more. I called the bank immediately, reporting the card stolen and fraudulent charges. The representative was sympathetic, assuring me they would investigate and reverse the charges. But I wanted more than just my money back. I wanted justice. The next morning, I called Mark. His voice, still a little hoarse, sounded genuinely tired. "Hey, Mom, feeling a bit better today. Still rough, though." The lie still echoing. "Mark," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within me. "I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" "Oh, Mom, I don't know. I'm still feeling pretty weak. Sarah's taking care of me." "It's important, Mark. Very important. And I need to talk to you, not Sarah." There was a pause. "Okay, Mom, give me an hour." An hour later, Mark arrived, looking a little pale, but certainly not like someone recovering from a debilitating stomach bug. He tried to give me a hug, but I stiffened, keeping a polite distance. He looked confused. "Mom, what's wrong? You seem upset." "Upset doesn't even begin to cover it, Mark," I said, leading him to the living room. I sat opposite him, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. "Tell me, how was your dinner at the Olive Branch last night?" His eyes widened, and a flicker of panic crossed his face. He stammered, The Olive Branch? What are you talking about, Mom? I told you I was sick. Sarah was taking care of me." "No, Mark," I said, my voice cutting through his feeble attempts at denial. "You weren't sick. You were at the Olive Branch, celebrating your promotion with Sarah, using my credit card." I pulled out my phone and showed him the pictures. The color drained from his face. He stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the phone, as if hoping the images would magically disappear. "Mom, I can explain," he began, his voice barely a whisper. "Can you, Mark? Can you explain why your wife lied to me, said you were deathly ill while you were out having a lavish dinner on my dime? Can you explain why you didn't return my credit card, but instead allowed her to use it for weeks, racking up thousands of dollars in fraudulent charges?" I laid out the bank statements, highlighting the unauthorized transactions. His face crumpled. "Mom, I swear, I didn't know it was that bad. Sarah, she just said she needed it for a few things, that she'd pay you back. She said she'd put it back in your wallet. I thought she did." "You thought she did?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Mark, you're not a child. You're a grown man. Did you not notice the expensive clothes, the new gadgets? Did you not wonder why my card was still missing?" He buried his face in his hands. "I am so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "But it did happen, Mark, and you were complicit. You allowed your wife to steal from me, to lie to me, to betray my trust." His head shot up. "Sarah didn't steal. It was a misunderstanding. She'll pay you back, I promise." "She didn't misunderstand anything, Mark. She deliberately deceived me, and you let her. I've already reported the card stolen to the bank. They're investigating the fraudulent charges." The color returned to his face, but this time it was a flush of alarm. You reported it? Mom, no. That's Sarah's credit, her reputation. She'll be ruined." "Her reputation?" I asked incredulously. "What about my money? What about my trust? What about the fact that your wife, my daughter-in-law, is a thief and a liar?" "Mom, please, don't do this. I'll pay you back every cent. I'll talk to Sarah. We'll make it right." He was pleading now, desperation in his voice. But it was too late. The words tumbled out, cold and hard. "It's already done, Mark. The bank is involved. And I've also filed a police report." His jaw dropped. "Police? Mom, you can't. This will destroy us. It'll destroy Sarah." "She destroyed herself, Mark," I said, my voice unwavering. "And she destroyed my trust in both of you." He tried to argue, to rationalize, to beg. He even tried to blame me, suggesting I shouldn't have left my card lying around, or that I was being too harsh. That was the final straw. "Get out, Mark," I said, pointing towards the door. "Just get out. I need some time to think, and I need you to think about what you've done and what your wife has done." He left, defeated, his shoulders slumped. The silence in the house after he was gone was deafening, filled only with the echoes of our confrontation. Arthur came to me, wrapping me in a comforting embrace. "You did the right thing, honey," he murmured, stroking my hair. "It's painful, but it's the right thing." The fallout was swift and brutal. Sarah was indeed ruined. The bank, with my evidence, easily reversed the fraudulent charges, but the police investigation was more severe. With the photographic evidence, the bank statements, and Sarah's past financial history, which, it turned out, was littered with similar incidents of forgetting to return borrowed cards or misunderstandings with joint accounts, she was charged with grand larceny and identity theft. Mark, in a fit of panic, tried to defend her, to cover for her, even to blame me to other family members. But the evidence was overwhelming. Sarah was arrested. She tried to deny everything, to portray herself as a victim of a misunderstanding, to claim I was simply a vengeful mother-in-law. But the truth, backed by irrefutable proof, stood firm. The trial was humiliating for everyone involved, especially for Mark. He sat there, a shell of his former self, watching his wife's carefully constructed facade crumble under the weight of her deceit. Sarah was found guilty. She received a significant fine, probation, and a permanent mark on her record that would haunt her for years. Their marriage, predictably, didn't survive. Mark, disillusioned and heartbroken, finally saw Sarah for who she truly was. The woman he loved, the woman he had defended against his own mother, was a manipulative fraudster. The divorce was messy, exposing even more of Sarah's financial misdeeds. As for my relationship with Mark, it took a long, agonizing time to heal. For months, there was a chasm between us, filled with resentment and unspoken accusations. He struggled to reconcile the image of his loving mother with the woman who had put his wife in legal trouble. But eventually, after much therapy and introspection, he came to understand. He realized that my actions, though painful, were born out of a desire for justice and a refusal to be a victim. He understood that I had to protect myself and that his own passive complicity had enabled Sarah's destructive behavior. Our relationship is still not what it once was, but it's slowly, painstakingly rebuilding. There's an honesty now, a raw understanding that wasn't there before. He knows now that my love, while unconditional, is not blind. I learned a harsh lesson about trust, about the insidious nature of entitlement, and about the importance of standing up for myself, even when it means confronting those you love. It wasn't a victory I celebrated with champagne, but with a quiet sense of peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you've reclaimed your dignity, your boundaries, and your self-respect. And that, in the end, is worth more than any stolen credit card. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to draw a line in the sand with family, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true stories of triumph and revenge. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and never let anyone take advantage of your good nature. Thank you for listening.